It is another episode of Amjambo Time. Thank you for all who help us to broadcast this unique program. I want to welcome our listeners in Maine and around the world. Here are our headline stories. On today's Amjambo Time, we often enjoy coffee here in Maine that comes from Africa. We have an importer on the show.
To me, coffee is something that, it's very close to my heart.
Taking a Knee for Change, produced by Titido Bakara, has been formally launched. We have him on the show. Neo-Nazi and hate groups are active in Maine. We will hear part 2 of our conversation with Andy O'Brien. Parvash Rohani, a Mainer from Iran, joins us to talk about persecution in Iran for her minority religious group. Let's get into detail after the mention of our sponsor.
This program is sponsored by Maine Humanities Council, a statewide nonprofit that uses books, poetry, and big ideas to bring people together to discuss issues of importance. Maine Humanities Council offers facilitated discussion projects, speaker events, grant funding, and more. Maine Humanities Council would love to work with you to bring programming to your organization and your community. Please visit mainehumanitiescouncil.org to learn more.
At Amjambo Africa, we bring new Mainers together with all Mainers. This is a collaboration between Amjambo Africa and WMPG of Southern Maine University 9.9 FM. Thank you for tuning in. In our previous episode, we had Andy O'Brien tell us about the rise of extremist and hate groups like neo-Nazis in Maine. He is here again to tell us what should be done to counter them and how these groups' messages can bring more pain to new Mainer communities. Welcome, Andy. So how do we move forward with this?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like these sort of fringe fascist groups, I'm a little bit concerned about some politicians are talking about, passing laws to crack down on these groups. My problem with that is that these laws can be used by right-wing politicians to crack down on peaceful demonstrators and anti-racist protesters, because if you listen to the right, they will describe Black Lives Matter protesters as terrorists, Antifa, all this stuff. And if you look down in Georgia right now, they're actually using a federal statute to go after peaceful demonstrators in Georgia against a police training facility. So that's one thing I'm concerned about there. I think we really need to do a lot more grassroots organizing. Ordinary people need to come together. And we do that in a number of ways. I think this is a long-term project. I think that white folks like myself and people from the immigrant community and African Americans and LGBT folks need to get together and really work to counter this movement. Let these people know that they're not welcome in Maine. That we don't like their ideology. We don't want them here. And we also build relationships throughout Maine with people who aren't exposed to people who are immigrants or not non-white folks. Because what I found is that when the people who are most fearful and hateful of immigrants are people who don't know them. And that's true in a place like where I live up in Rockland is predominantly white. I knew a woman who was very anti-immigrant, and then the person next door married somebody who had been an undocumented immigrant, and she loved him. She thought he was great. And it was very hard to reconcile her political beliefs with what the reality was, that this is a wonderful man from Mexico, and she loved the family, and she liked him as well. And, one of the problems I think that we have in Maine is that the immigrant community is located in southern Maine and Lewiston and in these cities. And the rest of Maine is predominantly white, and we don't have the kind of cultural exchanges and everyday exchanges that people do in some of the cities. So we need to think about ways that we can do that and facilitate these exchanges and make spaces for immigrants and white Mainers to come together and enjoy things, whether it's music or culture or food or whatever it is. We need to figure out those exchanges. And we also need to teach about the history in schools of Africans in Maine, African Americans, and their rich history that a lot of people don't really know about, and the history of immigration. My ancestors are from Ireland. They were the refugees of the 19th century. They were persecuted and they worked a lot of low-wage jobs. And the city of Portland was constantly fighting about how to support these refugees. Some of them they sent to the insane asylum in Augusta because they would pay for their room and board. So this is an old story. And it's nothing new, and we need to teach that history so people understand it.
Yeah, that's true. In the absence of facts, people start believing in nonsense. How do you feel if this ideology reaches new Mainers who often come with trauma behind on their back? So how do you think this can be a damaging challenge?
I think it's really important not to re-traumatize new Mainers because people have been through so much in their home countries. I think people should be vigilant. Understand that the vast majority of Mainers oppose these people, and there are people out there who are working to prevent these people from organizing and prevent them from making homes here and keeping careful watch on these people. So that's what I would say, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. People should not panic. I agree with that as well, because once you are in the country, you've got rights, you've got a way to defend yourself or to be defended by the law, and it is okay to hold your ground.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have all the rights that everybody else has here. And I also think, it's really incumbent upon all of us, particularly folks in the white community, to stand up to these people and make sure that they're not wanted. I know they're being closely watched by the police. A lot of these people have federal informants in their ranks who are watching them as well. A lot of these groups end up getting brought down anyway by the police. So just know that, in this situation, the law enforcement is on our side, I think, in this, and just to be aware of that.
A cup of coffee in the morning rush hour has never been bad for a Mainer. Some of these coffees are imported directly from Africa. In today's show, we have an immigrant who imports coffee from Cyangugu, a deep rural area in Rwanda. And the same coffee is among the many we consume in Maine.
My name is Jean-Christophe Rusatira. I'm a social entrepreneur and I'm originally from Rwanda. I import coffee directly from Rwanda and I distribute it across the US. So having grown up in a family that farms coffee, my dad planted his first coffee plant when he was 17 in 1976. And since then, he's been in coffee farming, trading, and growing up, that was our occupation for holidays. So to me, coffee is something that, it's very close to my heart. So when I arrived here, I realized that there's a way I can use coffee to actually contribute to my own professional public health goals by making sure that people are making good income from their crop, which eventually reduces the poverty and, of course, improves well-being of the people. And that also is an opportunity for myself to build some form of generational wealth in my family and in my community.
Yeah, someone can feel like it's a very complicated journey, to transport coffee from Rwanda and across the sea and and then we have it in Poland, Maine, through the local stores. So how is that wrong journey? How do you make it happen?
So there's no question, it's a little bit of a challenge to get the crops here, and that's why we only see coffee and tea probably, and not so much of the other crops like potato and banana, which we also have. It takes us 2 months to ship the coffee from Rwanda to the US. And fortunately, there are companies out there that have been doing international shipping for years. So at least that's a good system that's there for us. And once it gets to the US, again, the other big challenge is how do you actually get it to the customers. So it definitely took me a good 1 to 2 years to even figure out how do you even like talk to the people that they can trust you with their money and that you are going to give them good products. That challenge is still there because most companies have been working with the big importers, and coming in as a small importer, of course, it may be a blessing for the people who care, but also it may be a challenge for people who are actually willing to just stick to their existing partners. So there's so much time wasted trying to talk to people who are not interested. But again, you throw your net as large as possible, and I've been lucky that some companies like Coffee by Design have been really great partners. And there are people who buy in our mission that buying directly from the farmers. For instance, they just came to visit our farms in Rwanda. So having 3 people coming to visit the farms, it's very special.
Wow, and you can imagine as an immigrant who is talking to native companies. So how does it sound? It might be hard sometimes to convince people.
It is very hard because to start with, there's already a prejudice that you are coming against, that you may not be serious, and that you have to deal with it. Second, of course, for us, as you know, getting coffee is expensive, so you need a lot of capital to actually be able to bring the crop. So that's also another big challenge because you have to rely on the customers who are reliable, who will not, who be consistent with your product. Otherwise, it's very difficult for you to even plan. So definitely there are companies out there that actually care, that understand that what you are trying to do is good for the community, is good for the coffee itself, is good for the environment, and there are others that just don't care. So I think my main strategy recently has been to first identify those companies that actually care, and those are the people that you really want to work with. Yeah.
And in any way, it has some benefits. Have you started gaining some profit from the business, or you are seeing the preliminary phase or the building phase?
Definitely. We have definitely made profit for now 2 years, and we've actually been able to use that profit to build our own roasted coffee brand, Matriarch Coffee. So, because the idea is that if you are not able to sell the coffee, what are you going to do with that coffee? So we quickly learned that we better be able to roast our coffee and be able to sell the coffee directly to the end consumer. So we built our own Matriarch Coffee. Is available online on Amazon, and we are actually opening our first coffee shop in the next month here in Baltimore, right by the National Aquarium. So that's very positive for us.
Wow. So, would you like to encourage other immigrants to venture into business here in the USA?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are so many opportunities here. And of course, from the outside, it looks complicated. And I don't also want to make it sound easy, but it also it's doable. So I would say that being an immigrant should not be like something that deter you from thinking that you can actually make it happen. And having the belief, and more importantly, trying to find the right partners is key. I was lucky that I found partners who are locals, and we kind of co-founded the company, and they were very helpful in helping me to understand the local context, how things are done, where do you go to actually look for paperwork and everything. So that has been very helpful. So I think trying to find if they are locals to actually partner or collaborate with, it takes a lot of burden off of your shoulder.
Still extreme poverty, yet you have the diamonds in your life. Taking a Knee for Change was launched officially on September 16th. Titido Bakara is here with me to share how he felt at the launch and what is next.
And I was waiting. I said, I'm not sure people are going to show up, because I know a lot of people are afraid that because of the weather, they may think that the weather is not going to be great. So it is hesitation. And then, wow, I was very happy, very grateful to see people start coming. A lot of people. So we had a lot of people show up that days, and we start the events by a video projection where we explained everything from the idea, the concept of the project, and what we want, how we want to move the project, what comes next. And the idea is for the next coming years in 2024 to donate 500 books to schools and organizations here in Maine. Okay, to just keeping the momentum of social justice in the state of Maine. And people well receive this initiative, and I was on the panel with Dave Wade, one of the photographers, and we talk a little bit about why this project is important, what is our motivation to lead this project, and how important the involvement of the community is to make this state more just, fair state where everyone feel welcome, feel safe, feel included. It was amazing. And then we also gave the opportunity to the public to ask some questions, and it was amazing. And then people purchased books, some copies. That day we sell more than 50 copies, and for the first time in my life I have to sign those books.
Autograph.
Yeah. It's not easy,
It's not.
And for me, it was not just writing my name or the date or sign it. I have to write a thought, something that could inspire people, okay?
Yeah.
And we have long lines of people waiting to have their book signed. So, and then I signed it. At the meantime, people was dancing, eating food, drinking. It was so amazing, connecting. It was amazing. I get these feelings that really people want to be involved or to live in the state where they feel that they are really home. And I want to notice something important. We had the presence of the community of the Congolese community, Mardoché Mbongi. We had one person who came to represent the Main Historical Society. We had the director of Creative Portland. We had leaders who came community leaders, and yes, and that was so amazing for me. It was meaningful. So the next step, as I said, we need now to organize ourselves with schools and some organization, because we want to tour the Taste of Men, to go in different schools, not only high schools but also middle schools, with those books and donate for free. But before that, there is a huge organization. We need to start to connect with schools and make like a schedule. And also, we plan to do another fundraising, because it costs money to travel. It costs money to we need to buy gas. We need to find people, volunteers. So the next step are going to be the one where we are going to schools and distribute those books. And we are not going just to distribute books. We are going also to do workshops where we will invite each time one of the people in the book to share his stories about how he was impacted by racism, how the connection he has with social justice, and try to inspire people, motivate people to be activists. Because my goal is to, if the book could inspire people to become activists in their own communities, to speak up about with their families, members and friends about social justice, and also if people could believe that another society is possible to be built, but also is necessary, I will have won my bet. Yeah. So for me, I have a great expectation about this book. I want people to stand, to speak up, and to start the conversation.
Stop the lies, oh, stop the violence, oh. We want an Africa, for the African. Yeah, we Africa, Africa. Yeah, we Africa, Africa. Tengera, 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 Africa. Tengera, tengera.
Parvash Lohani, a miner from Iran, will talk to us about the persecution that is going on in Iran for Baha'i religious followers. Rouhani is profiled in our Amjambo Voices video series, available on the Amjambo Africa YouTube channel. Rouhani tells us why Baha'i face persecution and how should like the international community to respond.
I look at what happened to me. I had to leave Iran because of my religious belief, and a lot of us were expelled from university because of our religious belief. My father lost his pension because of our religious belief. But I just wanted to clarify that those kind of fanaticism exist in all the religion. It is not just Islam in Iran. I'm sure that there are that kind of fanaticism in other religion, exists in other religion as well. So I'm not contributing what happened to me to the religious belief of those people, because unfortunately this kind of atrocity happened because of the fanatical ideology. And definitely, yes, that happened because a group of fanatical people believed that we are infidel and unclean, and they burned our home. And actually, when they burned our home, our house was not the only one. There were 500 homes in city of Shiraz, that it is in the history that happened to us, and it was solely because we were Baha'is. Because
that is 79?
Yes,
okay.
1979.
Yeah, so now I'm trying to move from 79 up to now.
Yes.
So how is the Baha'i community in Iran?
Yes. So nothing has changed for the Baha'i community in Iran. Like still we hear Baha'is being arrested, put in prison. My own sister-in-law, my brother's wife, about, I think it was 5-6 years ago, she was arrested because they had a meeting at their home and they were sitting and saying prayer. So they broke into their home, they took every electronic thing that they had, they confiscated everything they had, and they put her in solitary confinement for a month. So I feel that this story alone shows how we should not be a bystander. Anywhere we are, we just definitely have to be an upper standard and make sure that any injustice, we talk about it, because if we don't, it would happen to our own community, to our own family.
So let me ask you this question like this. What is your plan, let's say in 1 month? What are you going to do tomorrow, after tomorrow about this? Do you have any immediate plans that you're working on?
Yeah, so really every night that I go to bed and every morning I wake up, I'm thinking what to do. And it is really this hashtag or story is one, which is a universal campaign, and I feel it's so appropriate. Then when you have a universal campaign, you have to have a universal language, and that art is a universal language. So, through this, hopefully we honor women, not only, many times I talk about this story one, and I say really these 10 Baha'i women, their story is not unique. I mean, 10 Iranian women were hanged in prison. But if you look throughout the history, many incidents like that has happened to women. Women who fight, I don't know, in Rwanda, in Afghanistan, or, the African American and the Native American. So it is not a unique story, but that's why really hashtag story is one, makes sense that it really relates to the fact that our story, not Baha'i story, not Iranian story, our story as humanity is one. And this is just a tool, to honor this woman is a tool to bring issues of justice and equality up and talk about it in our community. Excuse to have a reason to talk about these issues, and hopefully we will build a future that these stories would not be repeated.
This program is sponsored by Maine Humanities Council, a statewide nonprofit that uses books, poetry, and big ideas to bring people together to discuss issues of importance. Maine Humanities Council offers facilitated discussion projects, speaker events, grant funding, and more. Maine Humanities Council would love to work with you to bring programming to your organization and your community. Please visit mainehumanitiescouncil.org to learn more.
And we have come to the end of today's Amjambo time. Thank you for tuning in. Please keep an eye on WMPG and the Amjambo Africa website of this show and more news we are covering in Maine. And remember, Amjambo time alternates with our newest show, Wiriwe Maine, on air in Kirundi and Kinyarwanda on alternate Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and available by podcast at amjamboafrica.com. And stay tuned for news about Bonjour Maine, our newest podcast with host Jocelyn Ininahazwe, to be broadcast entirely in French. Amjambo time is brought to you by Jacques Kuzimana. Have a great day.